Today, we're sentencing Killua for all the heinous crimes he's committed in Hunter x Hunter. At the young age of 12, you will not believe the body count this kid has. It's actually pretty insane. Growing up in the infamous Zoldyck family, being an assassin wasn't just a job, it was a way of life. Killua was trained from a ridiculously young age to kill efficiently, and by the time most kids were learning to ride bikes, he was already a pro at taking lives. So we went through every single Hunter x Hunter episode to highlight every single one of his worst crimes, and the final prison sentence in the end will 100% shock you. Let's kick things off with a bang. One of the biggest stains on his record is multiple assassinations. As part of his training, he took out countless targets through details of which the exact number of his victims are not disclosed. We do get a glimpse of what this might have looked like in the Phantom Rouge movie, where he's sent to assassinate an unnamed wealthy man. By the end of the movie, his target and all bodyguards were left lifeless. If Killua were caught and sentenced for those crimes, the penalties would be brutal. Life imprisonment without parole for each kill would be on the table, along with fines of $500,000 per victim. Let's say there are at least 3 confirmed kills, that's a minimum of $1.5 million in fines and 3 life sentences right off the bat. For our purposes, we'll consider a life sentence as 100 years, bringing it to 300 years in prison so far. Now here's where things get interesting. Next up, we have to talk about Killua's involvement in the terrible things his sister Alluka has committed. Killua was the only one who knew about Nanika and how terrifying witch-granting rules worked. That is, until one of their butlers accidentally stumbled onto the truth. Killua knew the stakes. Refuse Nanika demands 4 times, and you're not just signing your own death warrant, but potentially doing a bunch of others too, depending on how big those demands were. But even though Killua was fully aware of this deadly rule, he didn't tell anyone in his family about it. Not until one of their servants, Mitsuba, ends up refusing Nanika's demands and pays the ultimate price, along with several other people linked to her. After refusing Nanika's request, she straight up squished like a fly right in front of them, along with the others.
Young man!
What results is a massacre of people that all instantly flatten into bloody pancakes in an instant. Imagine being on break at the Zoldyck estate, eating lunch with one of your co-workers, and then suddenly, splat. They vanish into a burst of blood in the blink of an eye. Worse than that, the blood got all over your salad. Now, while Killua didn't directly kill Mitsuba, his silence could have made him complicit in her death. At the very least, it's negligence. Killua had crucial information that could have prevented Mitsuba's death, but decided to keep it a secret. He casually blurts it out after the tragedy has happened, much to the surprise of his parents, especially when Kikyo, who instructed Mitsuba to refuse Nanika's demands without being aware of his consequences. In legal terms, this could open the door for charges like involuntary manslaughter or reckless endangerment, depending on how the situation is framed. For endangerment and negligence, the penalties could include up to 5 years in prison and $25,000 in fines. If the case escalates to involuntary manslaughter, Killua could be looking at a prison sentence of up to 8 years and fines reaching $250,000. We're shooting for the big numbers here, so we'll go with the latter. Killua's upbringing was downright brutal. His family's torturous training tried to mold him into a perfect assassin, but Killua has always had a rebellious streak. At just 11 years old, he decided he had enough killing and refused to let anyone control him anymore. So what did he do? He decided to run away from home and take the hunter exam. But when his mother and older brother Miluki tried to stop him, he stabbed them and bailed on his family. All because the hunter exam sounded fun. Honestly, with a family as messed up as his, it's hard to feel too bad for them.
母さんとミルキを刺したんだって。
まあね。
母さん泣いてたよ。
そりゃそうだろうな。息子にそんなひどい目に遭わされちゃ。
感激してた。
But still, the way he escaped raises some eyebrows. Sure, doing what you want sounds great in theory, but hurting others to make it happen? That's a different story. Legally speaking, this counts as assault. 2 counts, in fact. If we're tallying up penalties, that's a 20-year prison sentence and $50,000 in fines. During the hunter exam, Killua's deadly side slips out every now and then, reminding everyone that he's still got that assassin instinct buried beneath his cool exterior. A prime example is that scene on the airship heading to the next exam phase. After failing to steal the ball from Netero during their game, Killua is clearly frustrated. He sulks shirtless through the airship's corridors, still stewing over his loss. That's when he crosses paths with 2 other examinees. One casually points out how sweaty he looks, and the other, annoyed by Killua's lack of manners, reaches out to tap his shoulder. In a flash, Killua kills them both, somehow decapitating them effortlessly.
Yeah, where are your manners? Hey! Come back here!
Then, as if that wasn't chilling enough, he smiles and mutters to himself that if he kept playing Netero's game, he might have wanted the ball badly enough to kill for it too. Calling Killua a sore loser is an understatement. That's 2 counts of murder. The penalty is 100-year life imprisonment without parole and a cool $1 million in fines. The cold-blooded assassin doesn't end there though. Next comes probably one of Killua's most savage kills, when he takes out a prisoner in the Trick Tower named Jonas the Dissector. We consider giving Killua a pass for this one, because after all, Jonas was a serial killer who fully intended to kill him, and Killua was just defending himself while playing by the rules of the game. Jonas thought his fight with Killua would be a cakewalk, but before he knew it, Jonas was left speechless and he saw the white-haired assassin holding his still beating heart in his hand.
What happened? Why am I so cold?
Ripping out Jonas's heart was brutal, sure, but it was technically allowed. However, we're not letting him off the hook here. For this one, he gets an easy 100-year life sentence for murder and a $500,000 fine. The same goes for what he did to Botaro during the final phase of the Hunter exam. After losing to his brother Illumi, who was disguised as Guitar Rocker, Killua totally snaps. Instead of keeping his cool, he interferes in Leorio and Botaro's fight, despite the fact that killing was strictly against the rules. Out of nowhere, he impales Botaro from behind, killing the veteran martial artist instantly. This violation gets Killua disqualified from the exam, costing him his chance to become a hunter. While some speculate that Illumi might have manipulated him into doing it, Killua shows zero remorse for Botaro's death and never offers an explanation why he did it. That cold-blooded act is one of the darkest moments in the series, and a grim reminder of just how dangerous Killua can be. Legally, this would count as murder, carrying a 100-year life sentence without parole and a hefty $500,000 fine. Killua continues his crime spree after the Hunter exams and into his time at Heaven's Arena, a battle tower where the strongest fighters in the world come to fight for incredible prizes and fame. On the day of his match with Sadaso in Heaven's Arena, 10 minutes before the fight, Killua shows up in Sadaso's dressing room, knife in hand, and delivers a chilling threat.
You use Nen and you die. Make a sound and you die. If you understand, close your eyes.
If Sadaso ever crosses path with him or Gon again, he's dead. With the blade pressed against the back of his head, Sadaso has no choice but to agree and swear off playing dirty. Terrified, he bails on the fight entirely, and Killua wins by default. Later, when Sadaso leaves Heaven's Arena for good, he spills the beans to his teammates, Guido and Realbelt. Realbelt speculates Killua didn't confront them because he didn't know their abilities, but Killua proves them wrong by casually showing up. He calmly warns them to follow the rules, making it clear he could deal with them anytime. Now, legally speaking, this would be classified as a criminal threat, 5 years in prison and $10,000 in fines. Furthermore, he may also be charged with a misdemeanor, breaking and entering, which is punishable by 1 year jail time and around $1,000 in fines. He did trespass twice, so making that 2 counts of the misdemeanor crime. But honestly, Killua might get off easy here, given the context. Sadaso and his crew were shady from the start. They kidnapped Zushi so they can blackmail Gon into fighting them. However, Killua saw through their plan and tailed them up to the point to where they abducted Zushi. To save Zushi and keep Gon out of trouble, Killua offered to take Gon's place and even promised to give them the wins. The newbie hunters agreed to the deal and returned Zushi to him. But when they betrayed him later and blackmailed Gon anyways, that was the last straw. Killua decided to shut it all down and protect his friends. With these circumstances, a judge might lower his sentence, or even let him off the hook entirely, but that won't be us. So the sentences stay where they are. Just don't tell Killua that, or he'll be paying us a visit very soon too. During the early stages of Gon and Killua's adventure on Greed Island, they run into Biscuit, who had been watching them from afar for some time. She insists she becomes their master and properly trains them. Eventually, they agree after Biscuit easily defeats another player that was stalking and planning to attack them. It turns out to be Benoit, a blacklist hunter and wanted criminal. Gon asks her to train them in Nin. She agrees and begins by having the boys fight Benoit, but with rules. The rules are that Benoit must evade the boys' attacks for 2 weeks. and then he may leave. Otherwise, if he gets knocked out or can't stand, she would kill him.
Evade these two successfully and for 2 weeks, you understand? If you do, then I'll let you go. However, if you're knocked unconscious or if you can't stand up anymore, I'll just have to kill you.
They continue to fight until Benoit surrenders on day 10. He is prepared to have Gon kill him, but Gon thanks him for the training. Surprised and touched, Benoit leaves to turn himself in. Sure, Benoit was looking to take them out first, but instead of restraining him and turning him into the video game police or something, they straight up use him as a training dummy to the point that he collapses in exhaustion after 10 grueling days. This merit charges of kidnapping and torture, both which would add up to 120 years in prison. Also, during the events of Greed Island, Killua's knack for risk-taking turns into something dangerously close to a gambling problem. On the way to Dorius, Gon, Killua, and Bisky collect a bunch of slot cards, including the risky dice. When Bisky mentions that they can win a card by hitting 3 sevens on a slot machine at the casino, Killua quickly pieces together a plan. He borrows the risky dice from Gon, rolls it, and thanks to his luck-enhancing effects, lands 3 sevens on his first try. They score the Rainbow Diamond card, and Killua realizes that these dice can make them unstoppable in Dorius, despite Bisky's warnings about the dice worst luck scenario, which leads to almost certain death. Killua brushes it off and gives his card to Gon's as a precaution. Things take a turn when another player using a risky dice rolls poorly, causing a slot machine to explode.
This could get really scary really quickly.
Don't worry about it. It's not like it's gonna kill me, right?
Oh no! A slot machine exploded! I knew something was wrong. That guy just hit the jackpot 5 times in a row!
And he was acting weird. He kept rolling some funny-looking die.
Whoa! His face is mush! Look!
Gon and Bisky try to convince Killua to quit while he's ahead, but he's caught up in the thrill, even beating the casino king in poker to win the fledgling gambler card. Still, Killua isn't satisfied and insists on going one more round with his eyes practically glowing with a gambling rush. Bisky, realizing he's gone too far, knocks him out cold to put an end to his budding gambling addiction. Now, let's talk about the legal side of this. Killua is clearly underage and gambling, which is a big no-no in most jurisdictions. This could land him a charge of underage gambling, punishable by up to 3 months in jail and $1,000 in fines. So while Killua's actions were technically within the rules of the Greed Island game, this dice-fueled adrenaline rush shows how easily he slips into risky behavior, to the point he could even gamble with his life. All things considered though, this is a drop in the bucket for the time Killua is building up here, so let's move on to some more sentence-bloating kills. Throughout the Chimera Antart, Killua racks up the most impressive body count, of course second only to Netero. Early on, he takes out Mosquito Girl, Rhino, and Ramat with ease.
Combining speed with the utmost accuracy.
Then he goes on to single-handedly take on Leo's entire squad, and holds his own like an absolute pro. Later, he takes down the Ortho siblings and several soldier ants during the palace invasion. But let's get real here. Can you actually call this murder? Killua's mission was to eliminate the Chimera ants, an invasive and extremely dangerous species that pose an existential threat to humanity. These ants weren't just minding their business, they were actively killing humans, threatening the balance of the world, and aiming for complete domination. Every ant Killua killed was one less predator threatening the survival of mankind. Far from being a crime, his actions are heroic. If anything, Killua should be getting a medal, not facing any sort of penalty. But Lady Justice doesn't make exceptions here, and if the ants won the war and got a damn good lawyer, they could argue that since the ants had human DNA in them, this would count as human murder. After all, the winners usually get to be the ones that make the rules, right? So we're slapping him with a total of 10 life sentences for a combined 1,000 years in prison and $5 million in fines. When Killua is allowed to visit Alluka, who's locked up in a heavily secured room, he comes up with a risky plan to get her out so she can heal Gon. He asks his father, Silva, to open the door, but Silva says no, insisting that Killua has to make the wish there. Of course, Killua knows that that's not an option, since he's the only one who knows that Nanika needs to physically touch Gon in order to heal him. So Killua gets creative. He calls out Nanika and makes a conditional request. If they're not out of Kukuru Mountain within 30 minutes, their mother will die.
Nanika, 30 minutes from now, if we haven't gotten off this mountain together, I want you to kill our mother.
But if they succeed, Alluka would give Killua a kiss on the cheek. Nanika agrees and the countdown begins. Now, here's where things get complicated. By using his mother's life as a bargaining chip, Killua is putting her in serious danger. Sure, he's trying to escape, but asking for the life of someone else, especially his own mother, comes dangerously close to reckless endangerment. While Kikyo is shocked by what Killua is willing to say and do, she's also strangely proud of him for growing up to be so bold. Still, it's a pretty messed up move. In legal terms, this could be seen as reckless endangerment, which carries a penalty of 5 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. Even though everything turned out fine, Killua and Alluka managed to leave the mountain and Killua got that kiss on the cheek. It was still a dangerous gamble that could have gone horribly wrong. All things considered, it's hard to call this a clever move, even if the outcome was fortunate. And now, here comes the moment of truth. It's time to find out exactly how long our favorite kid assassin is going to spend in the slammer. And if you haven't been keeping track, it's a lot of time. For all of his terrible crimes, Killua racks up a fine of $8,322,000 and is slammed with a sentence of 1,658 years and 3 months for his crime. That may seem like a lot, and I mean, yeah, it is. But check out how insane Frieza from Dragon Ball's sentence is. Click the video you see now to find out.